but have you seen the meme where it says how to make friends as an adult? And it goes like this. Step 1, say we should hang out sometime. Step 2, don't actually hang out. Step 3, when you see them again, say we should actually put something on the calendar. Step 4, cancel. Step 5, reschedule. Step 6, honor their cancellation and reschedule. Step 7, actually hang out. Step 8, say we should do this again sometime, right? And step 9, die.
What a great way to end it.
Morbid, crazy.
Reality, actually, to be full transparency when it comes to friendships. Yeah, it's sad. It shouldn't be that way.
This is the FYI podcast where we talk about faith and life, adulting, theology, relationships, finances. We unpack your questions as the listener and viewer on YouTube. I'm Josiah Keneally.
And I'm Micah Keneally.
We are your hosts. Thanks for journeying together with us. Today's topic is cultivating community as a 20-something.
Yeah.
And Micah and I, full transparency, have no notes on this one.
We're flying by the seat of our pants.
Which is super unusual. And type into the comments on YouTube or respond on Spotify. Are you a type A person, aka me? You like to have a sketch, the questions, the flow, or are you type B where you can kind of just roll with the flow? Full honesty, like this is probably would you say this is one of the top 2 or 3 questions we ever get?
Yes. If it's not about relationships in the dating world or marriage, it's definitely in the relationship dynamics of friendships, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like I literally was at Starbucks coffee yesterday at this time, like 2 p.m. And a young adult said, how do I make friends as a 20-something?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make friends? And you were at North Central.
Yeah.
And what was it like there? People were asking you what?
They're asking me the same thing. Micah, how do you make friends? And I was like 8 to 10 years older than the majority of these students that I was coming across, because I'd never had a trouble making a friend or don't know a stranger, maybe is my problem.
Yep. And I want to ask you as the viewer or listener, if you've seen the meme, and we might do something with the video editing, but have you seen the meme where it says how to make friends as an adult? And it goes like this. Step 1, say we should hang out sometime. Step 2, don't actually hang out. Step 3, when you see them again, say we should actually put something on the calendar. Step 4, cancel. Step 5, reschedule. Step 6, honor their cancellation and reschedule. Step 7, actually hang out. Step 8, say we should do this again sometime, right? And step 9, die.
What a great way to end it.
Morbid, crazy.
Reality, actually, to be full transparency when it comes to friendships. Yeah, it's sad. It shouldn't be that way.
And if you're looking for friendships, if you're looking for those deep, authentic, meaningful relationships, godly community, that's honorable. That's noble. Jesus was what?
I don't know.
A friend of sinners.
I don't know what you wanted me to say. He was. Yeah.
And so I think that one of the things is we study Jesus and his life and his teaching in God's word. It's evident that for the ways Jesus grew was in wisdom, in stature, in favor with God and in favor with people, or mentally, physically, spiritually, and socially or relationally. And one of the things every human being needs is friendships.
Yes. And I will just say, like, whether you're 20 and you have this question, or maybe you're tuning in and you're 30 and you have this question, I believe that this question never gets old, because we've run into people 55 and plus who are empty nesters who are saying, wow, I'm just trying to reestablish who are my friends. Like, I'm not raising kids under a household anymore. Who are my friends? And there's no shame in that. I just think that I'm in a similar season. I'll be honest with you as a listener. I am trying to discover who are my people again. I feel like there's seasons of life that kind of happen, and I don't want to say there's turnover in friendships, because that's a really weird word to use, but there are friendships that move away. There are friendships that you might outgrow or maybe outgrow you. There are friendships that naturally dissolve. There are situational friendships, seasonal friendships, and hopefully lifelong friendships. And I believe I have some lifelong friendships, but a majority of them are actually back in my home state. And I feel like I can pick up where I left off the next time I see them. The last time I saw them, they know what's going on in my life. I can call them any time of the day, and I think they would definitely be there for me. but really realizing that Jesus had his friends, right? Like he
Yes.
had his one, he had his three, he had the 12 disciples, then he had the 72, the crowds and beyond. But I'm like, it's a cry of the human heart is to have a friend,
Hmm.
not only a friend in Jesus, not only a friend in your spouse or maybe somebody that you're dating, but outside of that, like who are the people that have your back? And we want to talk about like not how do you just make friends? Because I just heard this today. Andy Stanley would say that, I mean, I should go back and listen to it before I quote him, but it had to do along with like you can have friends that have interests, but you need to stop following friends and making friends that just have interests and start making friends that have the same values. Because you can have the same interests, like I love sports, and you can rally around sports and make that your God, or you can rally around the values of God and have him be your God
Yep.
and have that bleed into your friendship and out to others, meaning you have the same values, your
Hmm.
principles, dating, relationships, parenting. Like there are those values. So there's a difference between building friendships, cultivating friendships, finding people of interest who have similar, enjoyment or outlets of you as you do. But then there's the thing you can park on, like, where are my people that have the same values?
Wow.
And I just think that Jesus had values. In
100%.
order to be a 12, like 12, one of the 12 disciples, what did he say? Leave everything, come follow me.
Deny yourself, pick
Yes.
up your cross daily, and follow me.
Yeah,
That was the invitation.
totally.
It's the invitation to us today as Christ followers. And, there's a lot of people who say, well, I'm an introvert. And man, this is not an introvert extrovert message. This is a Christ-like community
Hmm.
message.
Right.
And it's also sometimes people say, well, I'm the lone wolf, I'm a lone ranger. And that is counter to the teachings of Jesus. We're
Hmm.
not Tom Cruise in Castaway. Like, look at the crazy lengths. He called a volleyball his friend.
Tom Hanks.
Did I say
Tom
Tom
Cruise.
Cruise?
Could you imagine Tom Cruise on that show?
My bad. My bad. My words were slower than my brain, but I was
I
thinking
do
of,
like both of them though.
yeah.
Very different acting
So
things.
so Tom Hanks, and he made a volleyball. He painted a face with blood of
Yeah.
Wilson, his friend. And it's like we're not meant to look at a sport or a
Right.
ball as our friend. Like we can have, and I think one of God's greatest gifts is the one another's.
Somebody who
It's
has a soul, somebody who has flesh, somebody who can have conversations, eyeball to eyeball interactions. Like, yeah.
look at this for a second before I unpack proverbs that would help inform how Jesus thought.
Oh, here we go.
Jesus studied the Old Testament. He knew the Psalms, he knew the
Hmm.
scroll of Isaiah, he knew the Proverbs. They influenced his life and teaching. Joseph, his dad, they would have
Right.
memorized some of this. They would have talked about this.
Hmm.
And but look at the New Testament community of Acts. They
Yeah.
devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, which was God's word,
Yep.
prayer, breaking of bread together, and fellowship. And the Lord added their number daily, those who were being saved. Who
Hmm.
wouldn't want to be a part of a community that said, you're moving? Got your back. I'm there for you. Who wouldn't want to be a part of like, oh, you're having a kid? Here's diapers, here's wipes, here's a meal.
Hmm.
Or come over for food, a fire, like
Yeah.
friendships. And what we see in Proverbs 17:17, it says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for the time of adversity.
Hmm.
And that poses, I think, a couple questions. You could ask the question, first of all, okay, all times, that means 4 p.m. and 4 a.m.
Hmm.
Are you the type of person who's only available at select times, or are you going to show up for your friends?
It's good.
Is it one of those like, we should really get together sometime, and then you're
Mhm.
texting somebody on your way to church because you're like, I know I'm going to see them? Is it that like, oh, I'm convicted about this?
It's
And
saving face,
yeah,
essentially.
like that's a great way to
Yeah.
call it what it is. But are you the we should get together somebody, or I'll teach you a game changer?
This puts people on the spot. Teach them what it is, Josiah.
So
You learned how to do this and you do it very well.
this is like, okay, we're at Zoe Church, our home, on a Sunday, and we've got kids, and it's a little bit crazy sometimes getting to and from church, but I see somebody in the lobby and they're like, would love to grab coffee. And
Mhm.
I do this. I say, when?
Yeah.
Pull out the phone, pull up the calendar app, and I go, when? Like, when do you want to grab coffee.
Yep.
And we'll make it happen. And I think that that's how intentional we need to be in a day and an age where what I put on my to-do list, confession, doesn't always get done. What I put on the calendar, usually I'm there.
Hmm.
There are exceptions. Nobody's perfect, but
Yeah.
I challenged yesterday a young adult at coffee. I said, man, respond to every text, answer or call back every phone call and voicemail. Be a person of your word. Show up on time.
Hmm.
Say please and thank you. If you let your yes be yes,
Yeah.
let your no be no all of the time. So somebody and that doesn't mean you can't sleep or turn off your phone, but are you the type of friend that would pick up for a friend at 4 a.m.?
What I would say, if you feel like you don't have friends, are you one that's going to humble yourself enough to initiate? Because I think so many times we walk into any setting being like, why isn't anybody talking to me? Why don't I have their phone number? Why don't they text me? And friendship is a two-sided street. I remember growing up, and this goes back to like third grade. And I was always the initiator, calling all my friends, like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Like, hey, you want to come over? Hey, let's go to the pool. Let's go for a bike ride. Like, I was always initiating. And then one time, like, I had almost become like exhausted, like the point of fatigue of like, wow, I am the one rallying the troops all the time. And this is like elementary. And I remember a girl literally did live like 6 blocks or six houses away from me. And she's like, Mike, you don't call me anymore. And I was just like, oh, we're still friends. I see you every day at school. Just because I don't call you doesn't mean that I don't care. But I said, our friendship and the phone is a two-way street. And I'm not talking cell phones. I'm talking like cord in the wall type phones. And I said, hey, if you want to give me a call anytime you can, like, my phone number. And I think sometimes, like, even as adults, we get in this weird selfish mindset of just like, nobody's talking to me. And we have like this downcast
Mhm.
attitude in our spirit of just like, why don't I have any friends? Why do they have all the friends? Like, if we stop playing the comparison game and realize, like, hey, I'm gonna be the person of the first ask.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be, and I'll say this like just randomly. I'll just be like, hey, this may sound weird, but I just feel like I would love to get to know you as a friend. Can we just grab coffee sometime? I just call the elephant in the room and say, I'm like, hey, this
Yep.
might be awkward for me to
Yep.
say, like, I'm actually looking for friendship and I see something in you that I think, we might click as friends.
Yep.
We're in the same season of life or our husbands get along. And I don't know, it's awkward, but I'm the person that's just like, hey, I'm gonna have a stupid question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway because everybody else is wondering. And I think instead of just wondering who your next friend is, test the waters and just don't be afraid to say, hey, I'd love to get together and I would love to get coffee or I'd love to
Mhm.
just hear your story.
Yep.
And I don't know, have fun, be adults because you never know the next person coming through the door could be your next best friend. But if you're going to be too timid and shy and wait for them to ask, you might be waiting for 2 years and missed out on 2 years of friendship, you know? So I don't know. That just comes to my mind of like, let's not play the victim game. Let's like
Mhm.
play the initiation game of like, initiate a conversation. And if it doesn't work out, say you don't have to be at the end of the coffee like, well, this is kind of awkward. It's I don't know if we can be friends. Just you're probably not going to get a
Oh
text, or
my
maybe
gosh.
you're not going to hang out again.
Totally.
It's kind of like a weird date, isn't it?
Totally. And you know what? We had a conversation about cultivating community with Katie Helgerson, who leads Gather Intentional Living, a podcast, and she does charcuterie boards.
Yeah,
She shared something that she found, which was just like in dating, but also in friendship, the law of kind of like three times.
yeah.
So meaning like you don't nobody wants to be the pester who's like people respond like they'll finally get it give in to you. You don't want to be that friend, but like let's say you invite somebody to a Vikings game. Well, invite them at least three times before you stop inviting
Before
them
you dismiss
completely.
them.
Because you know what? Probably the sad reality, you guys, is that we're all probably too busy for our own good.
I was going to ask you, what is the biggest distraction of our lack of growth in community and friendships? I think
I
you just hit the first one on the head right there. Busyness.
I would agree that busyness for most, because we all have 24 hours in a day, and you can claim that you're too busy, but it's just like Jesus made time for the interruptions.
Hmm.
And you can go with the plan and prioritize your priorities, but where is the margin for the miracles on
Yeah.
your calendar? And we can view interruptions as inconveniences or as divine appointments.
Hmm.
And you'll never know. You'll never know. But if you have the like joy of the Lord, you never view an interruption as an inconvenience. You view it as like God could be interrupting my existence today.
Hmm.
And he could be sending a new friend for me. He could be sending someone that I get to be a friend to.
Right.
And I think one of the greatest joys comes from being a friend and having a friend, of offering and initiating and reciprocating friendship. And you're like, it's never too late to start a brand new friendship.
And I think with friendship, I think we need to realize that it takes time. And some people you might click right away
Mhm.
and be like, we've been friends for like 5 minutes and it feels like 5 years. Those are awesome moments, to be
Yeah.
quite honest with you. But there is time, like even when we spend time with the Lord, we spend time in our devotion, we spend time with God. It's like, but I don't really know God. Well, it's because we're not in the Word, we're
Yep.
not praying.
Yep.
Well, I don't really have any friends. Well,
Yeah.
because you're not trying. You know what I mean? And sometimes I think we can strategically place ourselves in rooms where we do have exposure to more friends. We do have opportunities for more friends. And there are some people literally that are in a wild, crazy season. Maybe they're married and they have a ton of kids and there's a lot of things going on. And I've had people say to me like, "Hey, I'm not actually looking for friendship right now. I don't have the bandwidth to give of myself to anybody else." And this was a friend saying this. I already had a friendship with this person, but they said, like, outside of the three of us sitting at the table, they're like, I wish I did, but I don't. Like the mental capacity, the home load, the workload, the mental like load is a
Totally.
lot right
Totally.
now. And that season will pass. But here's what I've realized: if we let those seasons pass, there's always going to be an excuse for every season. There really is. I
Yep.
mean, if you think about the dating world, if you think about the friendship world, oh, when the kids are gone, then I'll make friends.
Hmm.
Well, what am I supposed to do for 18 years?
Yep.
Just devote myself to my spouse, my house, and my kids?
Yep.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but if it's only that and I don't have any friendships outside of the four walls of my home, that's going to be a rude awakening when the kids leave the nest,
Mhm.
or if you're on college campus when you leave those 4 years and you didn't make any friendships and now you're in a career and you're like,
Mhm.
I don't even know how to converse with people. I don't know how to, prioritize friendships or even try to cultivate friendships. And I think with the cultivation process, that takes time. There are seeds that are planted, there's watering, there's weeding, there's pruning, there's like all these different things. Uh, that I think sometimes we kind of neglect and saying, well, if we don't hit it off the first time, we're never going to meet again. And
Mhm.
people don't say that. People might think that.
Yep.
But I like the rule of three that Katie talked about on the podcast when we had her as a guest. And her story was that she just would go into the bank and she's like, I really clicked with this one gal that I was just like intrigued by. And she was super friendly. She was super fun. Like, and she just said, hey, this might be weird, but I'm looking for friends. Do you ever want to get out for coffee? She's like, oh my gosh, yes.
I was hoping you'd
I would
ask type
hoping you,
situation.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
hoping
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
ask. But it took Katie being the person, the first ask to initiate. And I still believe they're friends to this day. So everybody's looking for friendship. Even if you think they have friends, they might not.
Yeah. Well, and think of the best friend you ever had for a second. I want you to stop and think of who was the best friend that you've ever had in your life. What was it about their demeanor, the way they carried themselves, the way they approached you and others that made them such a great friend? Was it like Proverbs 17:7 says that they loved you at all times? It
Hmm.
was kind of that fully known, fully seen, fully loved situation. Was it that they were like a brother born for a time of adversity?
Hmm.
I think a lot of people desire friendships, and I tell you what, if you've ever been near rock bottom in any aspect of life,
Right.
that's where friends are people who you can borrow their faith.
Hmm.
You can borrow their joy. You can share the troubles.
Hmm.
And it's a burden cut in half and joy shared that is multiplied. And I think that for all of us, Micah, to underscore what you were talking about a second ago is patience.
Hmm.
It's the friend development process. And I think it's just like, are you open? And my question for you as the viewer on YouTube or the listener, are you open to meeting new friends?
Hmm.
Truly, are you open to cultivating deeper relationships than you have presently?
Yeah.
Are you plugged into a local church? Where are you serving? Are you a part of a small group or Bible study? Like just entering and leaving the building on a Sunday isn't actually, I would argue, isn't church.
Right.
Sure, you crossed off the box, but church is the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the people of God more so than a building or a house of worship, which it's that too,
Hmm.
but it's actually
Communal.
not just an hour on Sundays, but what about the other days a week? And I just wonder, could you devote 15 minutes a day to friendship? What would your life look like? And what would that mean for any of us? Is it one phone call with one
Hmm.
friend for 15 minutes? Is it sending 15 thoughtful texts a certain day and praying for people?
Hmm.
Is it praying to the God of the universe who
Hmm.
sent his son Jesus as our savior and asking Jesus for
Hmm.
new friends? I believe, my friend, that that is a prayer he will answer.
That's good.
And practically, are there other handles that we can give to this message, Micah? I was trying to make this as practical, like 15 minutes a day investing into friendships,
Yeah.
serving people. When you're asked to help somebody move, showing up, um, sharing your needs, praying to God
Hmm.
for friends. What are a few other practical handles or applications to cultivating friendships and deep, meaningful community?
Well, here's where I think maybe we've done ourselves a disservice. We talk about the types of friendships. We have situational, we have seasonal, we
Wow.
have lifelong. We talk
Wow.
about the different pockets of
Sure,
friendships
sure,
and
sure. Like
people, right?
evaluate your friendships in one of these
Yeah,
circles.
and it's like, well, it's all feels a little fleeting at the time. And does anybody really see me? And am I really known? So with that, I would say the practical application is number one, are you making your like how can you practically make yourself are you making yourself available for a friendship? Meaning like is there any white space on your calendar where it's like, hey, every Thursday night is
Wow.
I go out with a different group of friends,
Yep.
or I go out with 2 to 3 girlfriends, or there's a hybrid of 10 of us that get together and
Mhm.
we go watch the fights, or we go to Buffalo Wild Wings, or we go like you do you have a spot like where are you making yourself available like outside of the church? You know what I mean? I'm not saying go to the
Yep.
bar, but I'm saying like most people rally around food or event, right?
Absolutely.
So food or event, where am I making myself available to cultivate friendships around the table? I would say another one is, are you willing and able to host things yourself? Like,
Mm.
hey, moving it at my house. Hey, we're all going to be, making supper. Let's all bring something. We're going to do walking tacos. So
Yep.
everybody brings something different, and just give people responsibility, because anytime you're trying to build friendship or community, there needs to be buy-in,
Yep.
meaning that they need to be assigned a responsibility of saying like, hey, your presence is requested.
Yep.
Like we want you there. And I think we need to potentially evaluate our level of commitment in
Mm-hmm.
the process of cultivating.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say like, "Oh yeah, I'm committed to friendship, but I'm canceling, I'm not showing up, I'm kind of just offline and not responding to anybody," like then I call and text those friends like, "Are you okay?
Yep.
Like, are you okay?"
Yep.
So being like vulnerable in those
Yeah.
moments and transparent of
Yep.
saying like, I am not mentally okay. I'm not physically, I have physical goals. Like, I think friendships, you share goals, you share dreams, you hold each other accountable. If one of you is training for a marathon and the other one hates running, hey, I hate running, but I'll rollerblade or ride bike with you. Hey,
Yep.
I'll go to the gym with you and lift weights when you're training.
Yep.
It's not one of my fortes, but I want to see this dream of yours come
Mm-hmm.
come into existence. So I think it's very much a dynamic of availability and vulnerability teamed together that says, I'm a messy person just in need of a messy friend, because we're all messy people, but God still loves us, right? So,
Unpack those one more layer, Micah, because I
oh
was
dear.
gonna I was gonna close with like availability.
Oh, okay,
And
sure.
and then you said it, but I was gonna say like maybe the greatest gift you can give yourself relationally with friendship is availability.
Mm-hmm.
And then you added vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Unpack like what do you mean by that? What could that look like, or what does that look like for
Both
you?
those terms. I think availability, I think you already kind of touched on that. It's making yourself available to them. Are they moving? Are you accessible? Are you a friend that says, hey, let's get together 3 months from now? That is hard to hear. I'm like, I meant today.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm interrupting, but
No, go ahead. You're
availability, what
fine.
popped into my head is Ryan Skoog wrote this book, Lead with Prayer, and his point was like, spend time with God.
Yeah.
and like lavish time with God. And even he used the words waste time
Mm-hmm.
with God because he said that's what we do with our friends. Like we waste time together. We shoot the breeze, we go to a game, we spend time, like we just talk.
Yeah.
And maybe less of the agenda in the availability and more of the, hate to say it because it is productive in and of itself, but more of the time wasting together.
What I'd say the time wasting process is shut off your phones. Put them in your purse, put them in your car, do whatever you got to do to eliminate the distraction because I think sometimes what we do is we are and I learned this when one of my top love languages quality time.
Yep.
And quality time for me equates to we're in the same room, we're having a conversation,
Yep.
I'm engaging, you're engaging, there's eye contact, there's words being shared, there's stories, there's laughter. That is quality time. You're building memories together through an event, through an experience, through some type of adventure, right? Whether it's this conversation or you are experiencing the horse races, whatever it is. That is different than somebody else who may not have the gift of quality time, thinking that they're spending quality time with you in the same room in close proximity while everybody's on their phone. That to me is a waste of time, a waste of space. And truly is it's one of my pet peeves is just like, we spent all this time getting us on the calendar. Now we're here and we're all on our phones.
Yeah.
Or I'm the only one not on my phone. So I would say learning how to be present and available. Present is living in the moment.
Wow.
And your presence, like your physical body and your story and your body, mind, and soul are requested to be a part of this conversation, this event, this meal, whatever. So I would just say that is something to look at. Like, what are your love languages? And are they being fulfilled? If quality time is one of them, then maybe the people you're spending your quality time with is not being met and fulfilled. And it's not for you to run around saying, my glass is half empty. It's saying, wow, maybe I need to invest in some deeper friendships or present a solution to could be a communal problem of distraction through technology. So I would say that is one dynamic that I think of in the day and age. I don't care if you're 55 plus listening, you're a millennial, you're like the alpha gen, like we all have the problem of the cell phone. I don't care what generation you've come from, whether you
Mm-hmm.
were born into it or
Mm-hmm.
you adopted it later in life. Like it is a major distraction from real intimacy with each other, more or less.
And I guess I would ask this question, does your life look more like the airport terminal where everyone is hurrying up to wait and waiting to hurry? And if you did see someone, it's going to be a quick exchange. Or does your life look more like the countercultural, unhurried dinner where there's a couple friends breaking bread together, enjoying each other's company, sharing the ups and downs, the mountaintops, the valley lows? Like, does your life look more like a living room, a dining room, a house, kitchen, home experience where you can take off your shoes and make yourself at home? Or does your life look more relationally like an airport terminal where you've got some acquaintances, but you're spending more
Mm-hmm.
time on your device with your headphones in, tuning the world out? I think that's a valid question because even sometimes I'd say from the stage that we are guilty of saying we embrace life together, we do life together.
Mm-hmm.
And we give lip service to relationships and friendships and deep, meaningful communal relationships. But if we're honest, we're all just coming and going and ships passing through in the night.
You're right. Right.
And
So
so
maybe just sit in the harbor and relax a while.
I mean, seriously, I'd say getting real practical, drilling down with the challenge. You guys, we love you. We're praying for you. We want for you to find those meaningful friendships and community and relationships and
Mm-hmm.
do something to build your community and God's kingdom today.
That's right.
For a lot of listeners, it could land in a lot of different places, but do something
Mm-hmm.
today to move forward relationally. And if you have follow-up questions about anything, let us know. And if you're watching, viewing this, listening, streaming, please subscribe. That way you can join future conversations where we unpack your questions as a listener, but you are tuning in to the FYI podcast.